what is your plan for Cam Ward then, Mike? We heard a little bit from Brian Callahan. I'd love to hear from you as the general manager. What is the plan for Cam Ward here?
I think, we're going to go in this thing and we're going to create competition here. We still have, quarterbacks in the room with Will here. And, our plan is really, he gets in here today with the rookies and just, we're going to take it step by step and see how he progresses. We've done some installs with him over Zoom, before, even before we had him here. So really it's just in terms of just like today and this weekend, it's just like getting in and out of the huddle, calling the play, spitting the play call out. I think it's important. I think Brian has a great plan with his staff. And, we're going to take it through the offseason, OTAs, and into training camp and just see how he progresses. But, I think the first thing is, he's really going to, pick up the playbook first and then, start to build those relationships with the people in the locker room.
So, again, far be it from me or anybody in the media, Mike, to tell you how to plan your life or your team or to generally manage. And the same thing, obviously, of the head coach. And, and I understand your franchise does have a history of choosing a quarterback very high and letting him sit. I've seen Steve McNair wear both of those helmets behind you in your office, just as a for instance. That said, when you in the 21st century choose a quarterback first overall and say, we're going to compete, that maybe raises a little bit of anxiety and from the fan base, because normally you choose someone first overall. Last year, Chicago didn't say anything but Caleb's our guy. He's going to start. That's the way we're going to operate with him, and he's ready to roll. Why not do that with Cam?
Well, I think the expectation is him to, you taking a quarterback number one overall, that he's going to, uplift your franchise and be that guy. But, part of our job here is to manage expectations as we go through the process here. So, eventually that's what we want it to become. But I think, we really want to take the proper steps to make sure he's ready to go out there and play, whether it be week 1 or week 2 or week 3. And if he hits the ground running here in training camp, he'll be out there week 1.
So it is possible, based on just the you never know factor, that Will Levis could once again be the starting quarterback to start the season for the Tennessee Titans, Mike.
Well, I think that the competition brings out the best in everyone. So, I think Will's a young quarterback that's still developing. But anytime you take a quarterback, with the number 1 pick, your anticipation is that he's going to one day, lead the franchise and be a franchise quarterback. But, like I said, we've talked about this plan for a while with Brian and his staff, and, we want to make sure Cam is prepared before he steps out in that field.